Are the mutants that are living in Latveria Doom's X-Men? Welcome to the Comicstorian Complete Story Series, where we take trade paperbacks in single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then we read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. During the Fall of X event, many mutants were recruited to help fight Orcus. But what about the mutants in Latveria? This is X-Men issues 28 and 29. This was originally a members video, but I wanted everyone to see it. I hope you enjoy.
Sunfire staggers through the vastness of the overworld. He had attached Redroot to his heart. He allowed the Araco mutant to root into his veins, keeping it alive long enough for Sunfire to journey through the overworld and make it home. His journey has been long. He now staggers through the icy cold of the frozen wasteland until he finally collapses. He tears Redroot free of his heart, apologizing for failing her. "This is the end of all things," he whispers. But a shadow looms over him, and a deep voice rumbles from the darkness. "What is an end, my child? If not, a beginning?" Apocalypse asks as he lifts Sunfire out of the snow. "The magic has led you right to my side once more. Be healed and be prepared, for we march to war," Apocalypse says as he begins to heal Sunfire. Nearby, Redroot has begun to grow, bathed in the mutant blood. At the Henry Gyrich Re-Education Center, Firestar slips inside. Most mutants don't know that she is a double agent, still believing her to have betrayed them to Orcus. But now she knocks out a guard and moves through the halls of the prison, finding the place where they are operating on the Juggernaut after another failed escape attempt was stopped by Nimrod. Firestar leans in the door, and using her powers, she quietly destroys the morphine IV drip that is keeping the mighty mutant unconscious, before slipping away and changing back into her normal clothes. After accomplishing half of her mission, she heads to the cell of Scott Summers, whose eyes have been sewn shut. "Look at you, Cyclops. You're making what's left of your life a living hell," Firestar says. "Welcome back, traitor," Scott hisses at her. She leans in, shouting for him to give up, to speak against the remaining mutants, and she begins to tap Morse code on his shoulder, explaining that she is actually sorry that she can't free him today, but she has freed Juggernaut and he has been able to finally escape. "Just take the deal," she snaps, continuing her little act, when suddenly the entire prison shakes and Firestar launches out of the room. "Give 'em hell, Kane," Scott says with a smile. As Firestar flies through the halls of the prison, she is stopped as the wall suddenly explodes next to her. Well, I was about to check out of this gulag, but now the traitor is here. I might as well stick around and have some fun." Juggernaut laughs. He stomps forward, preparing to squash Firestar, but she hits him with a burst of flames that drives him back. "Stay back!" she shouts, real fear in her voice. He grabs a hold of her, lifting her into the air. "Time to die, traitor!" he shouts, but Firestar pulls a flash drive out with all of the information that she has managed to steal from Orcus. She shoves it into Juggernaut's mouth, and she leans in fast as Juggernaut suddenly stops in sheer surprise. "Don't swallow that drive. The X-Men need it. I'm still on the team. No time to explain," she whispers. She orders him to escape, but first, he needs to hurt her and make it look good. Juggernaut lifts her up, slamming her into the ground before whirling away and slamming through the wall. He runs off into the rainy night, finally free of Orcus's imprisonment. Later, he meets the X-Men in the tunnels beneath New York City, giving them the drive and explaining what happened at the Gulag. "We're glad to have you in the Resistance, Juggernaut. I'll see what's on the drive," Sync says as he takes it and plugs it into his laptop. "No doubt she saved your life. Let's see what's so important." The drive boots up and they're shocked to find files on all of the mutants that Orcus has captured, plus details on the bomb that is holding Scott in his cell. Sync nods, looking at Kitty. "Looks like a road trip is in order." Orcus detected a group of mutants who resisted the push into the gates by Xavier. Sync says, asking Kitty to take Miss Marvel with her. The young teen smiles as she sits up. "So where are we going?" she says brightly. Back at the Orcus control, though, those controlling the organization have begun to question Firestar's loyalty. But Firestar pushes them aside, explaining that if they want to kill her, they might as well get it over with, as she can never return to the X-Men. She finally storms out of the room, tears in her eyes, pain racking her body. Meanwhile, Kitty and Kamala have launched themselves from the private jet that they stowed away on. While Kitty is used to diving into the land and then swimming back to the surface with her powers, Kamala is learning the finer arts of parachuting as her parachute gets stuck in a tree. "Oh, come on!" she shouts, tugging on the lines. But she finally frees herself, extending her legs down to the ground so that she can just safely get herself out of the tree. "Next time, try to land silently," a voice calls out of the shadows. Kamala looks up in surprise to see Wolverine watching her. "Logan!" she shouts in surprise. He shakes his head as he steps out and she hugs him. "No sense in alerting everybody, but otherwise, nice entrance, kiddo." As Logan and Kitty begin to talk about the plan, Kamala is trying to figure out where they actually are. "Is this Austria or Switzerland?" she asks as she looks around the forest that surrounds them. But a voice calls out to them from a nearby hill. "Some news, child. You're not in Europe at all. This is Latveria," Doom says with a team of mutants at his back ready to fight. It was a little while ago when Xavier first prepared to deliver his psychic message to the world of Krakoa's existence and the mutants' sovereignty. But when he lifted Cerebro onto his head, he was met by the voice of Dr. Doom. Doom told him that he was aware of the mutants' intentions and that Latveria would be declining their offer of medical aid in exchange for acknowledgement of sovereignty. While Doom commended the mutants on their act, he knew that it would end, for none of them were fit to rule. "This will end in your ruin, Charles," Doom says before ending his psychic link. What Xavier didn't know is that Dr. Doom had gathered his own group of mutants. Latverian by birth, he brought them to Castle Doom and he trained them, explaining that someday the world would turn on the mutants, that the mutants would come for them, but Doom would protect them. He stands with them in the castle, a roaring fire before them in his audience chamber. "When the mutants that Charles gathered have been largely chewed up and spit out, the sun will set on the mutant nation. The X-Men will then invade Latveria and attempt to kidnap you," Doom tells his own mutants. Now, his team of mutants, his X-Men, stand in the forest looking down on Kitty, Logan, and Kamala. "Remember well what I have said, my fellow Latverians. The mutant day of treachery is at hand," Doom declares. Logan looks up at them, popping his claws in preparation for the fight. "Sounds like the Tin Man's been feeding you a bunch of crap," he snaps. But Volta Doom leaps down, her lightning rod cracking into the ground as she smiles at Logan. "You're trespassing," she says as Logan moves to slash through the rod, but his claws are stopped and electricity courses through his body. "Volta's spear is vibranium!" Kamala shouts, and Logan rears back, shouting to the mutants that they need to stand with their people. But Kitty has had enough. She draws her two swords. "We're wasting time arguing while the skies are filled with sentinels," she hisses, but Volta is ready and charges forward. "We're not afraid of robots, and we haven't seen any of these sentinels in Latveria," she says. Kamala tries to calm everyone down, but the mutant known as Slag, with a rocky exterior and boiling magma for blood, charges forward, slamming into Wolverine. "No more playing around," Kitty says as she rushes forward, her blades slashing into Slag's rocky exterior. Volta shocks her, but Kamala stretches out her hand and grabs a hold of the lightning spear. "I promise you I don't want to fight," she shouts, but Slag is rushing towards her. Luckily, Wolverine is there, stabbing him in the back with both claws. "What I do?" he bellows. But next to him is Nerium, who controls the very earth beneath their feet. Doom declares that she is of Latveria in mind and body. Vines stretch out, wrapping around Wolverine's body, stinging and poisoning him until blood is spilling out of his mouth. Kitty rushes in, slashing through the vines with her swords. "You're a mutant! How can you fight us?" she demands. But Nerium simply screams back, "I'm Latverian, and I am the spirit of the land!" Volta retrieves her spear, ordering the X-Men to surrender. Backed into a corner, Logan holds up his hands to stop the fight. "We only came to liberate the mutants," Kitty says, but the Latverians merely glare at her. "We are free!" they shout, and Wolverine finally nods. "Then we'll leave you with your ruler and be on our way," he growls, but Doom shakes his head. "I'm afraid you cannot leave until you've dined with Doom." So a short time later, the two groups of mutants are sitting at a fine table in Castle Doom, a vast meal laid out before them. The Latverian mutants explain how they were found by Doom, taken from lives of intolerance and bigotry, trained to be the defenders of Latveria. How they owe Doom their very lives. Kitty turns to Doom. "So Victor, you say that you knew that Krakoa was doomed to fail? You knew we were coming? What happens next?" Doom takes a long drink from his goblet, wiping his mouth and standing. He explains that he knew that this would happen, which is why he closed his borders to the island nation. He brought the mutant Latverians to him. Now they are alive when your people are not. The answer with what happens next is a gift I am not ready to give, he says before turning and walking out of the room. Kretkoans, be gone by dawn! Doom bids you good evening, Doom says before leaving. After he leaves, the mutants continue to eat. Perhaps Doom is the answer to your problems. You could ask for asylum. Your enemies fear to tread here. Volta Doom suggests, but Logan shakes his head. Lady, we have enough fascists to deal with, he growls. Nerium raises a glass of wine and declares that should the mutants need them and it serves the will of Doom, she would side with them in the final battle. The X-Men glance at each other and smile. All right then, Logan says with a nod. The next day, the three mutants return to New York, with Kitty still unhappy with the outcome of their mission. But Logan points out that at least the Latverian mutants will most likely side with them, even though the three got their butts handed to them in the fight. So that was Doom's way of signaling he'll fight if asked the right way? Kitty ponders. They then arrive at the secret tunnels beneath the city, and they're shocked to find their headquarters is destroyed and covered in blood. What the hell happened? Logan bellows as they rush into the room to find it empty, and their friend's gone.
And there you have it. What did you guys think of today's story? We still have 2 more X-Men videos in this series that Benny had recorded, so I hope you stick around and subscribe for when those go live. One of them is currently a members video that will go public, but the other one hadn't yet been edited, so it will be new for everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Rest in peace, man.